Always good to catch up with our friend Nikki Chavanelle, the managing editor of HawgBeat.com. That's in the Rivals Network covering all things Arkansas athletics. Nikki, happy Election Day. I know you took care of business right as early voting opened up, so good on you. How you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm glad I got that out of the way. I would hate to be, sitting in a line or something today.
That's for sure. All right, so let's get into this Arkansas-Tennessee game. I think when you look at this, Arkansas is just in a steadier position at the most important position, quarterback, than Tennessee is. And for me, that's what I'm taking into Saturday's game above everything else. I think Tennessee's probably got a solid defense. I think they've got a good running game. They're better on special teams than Arkansas. But if I look at quarterback, I think Arkansas is in a much better position than Tennessee. And right now, that's why I would give the Razorbacks the edge. What do you think? Yeah,
Guarantano's throwing at a lower clip than Feleipe Franks, 61%, 3 interceptions, so that's the same. But, the Vols offense isn't as smooth as they were to finish out last season. So this is a game that I think a lot of people feel Arkansas has a chance in, and that's certainly what Vegas thinks. I think it's like a 1.5 point spread right now in favor of Tennessee, but it might be even by game time. I am worried about Eric Gray, the running back. He's really good. I know Arkansas recruited him and wanted him, but I think he's a Tennessee guy, so I don't think there was much of a chance there. But, a little worried about that run game against Arkansas's run defense, especially if they're going to tackle as badly as they did against the Aggies. But I like the matchup in general because Arkansas is now getting their run game going, and Tennessee has steadily allowed more and more yards on the ground each week. So maybe those two factors can line up and Arkansas can take the win.
Did we learn a little bit about how important Jalen Catalon is to the defense when he is ejected because of targeting in the first quarter and the secondary gets shredded after that? A lot of missed tackles after. I know he missed a couple of tackles while he was out there, but we've seen what he does on the field, but you do get a sense of how important and valuable a player is when he's not allowed to play. And I felt like we got a sense of that against the Aggies.
Yeah, and one of his biggest traits is just how smart he is on the field. I remember talking to him when he was in high school, and he's just a really, really smart guy. He watches a ton of film, according to Sam Pittman, so he kind of, knows what's going to happen before it happens and can help his teammates out in a major way. And then obviously the way he hits is big time. That hit on Saturday was really unfortunate. That guy, lowered his head at the same time that Jalen was coming in, so that was obvious targeting, but not malicious in any way. Sam Pittman did say he would like to see Catalon wrap up a little bit more than just going for the big hit, but that guy is just everywhere, and so his presence is definitely missed. And I think it was, a couple of plays or maybe even the play after that Catalon went out that, Miles Flesher missed a big tackle, and I think it led to a touchdown.
Nikki Chavanelle joining us here on Halftime. Nikki, keeping it with that defensive backfield for the Razorbacks, I think the big thing that I took away, that Texas A&M just shredded the defensive backs, especially after Catalon left. Do you think this is more of just like a one-game deal where they caught A&M at just the best time possible for them to have the best game ever? Or do you think there's any level of concern right now in that defensive backfield?
Well, you're thinner than you were before, so maybe guys play a little bit more cautiously knowing that there's not as much depth behind them. But they really picked on Hudson Clark the other night. I mean, they had seen his game, obviously, against Ole Miss and the 3 interceptions, but they were not afraid to go after him, and they were giving the Aggie receivers a good bit of cushion. And luckily, Clark is a pretty solid tackler, so, he limits the yards after the catch, but they still, I think he allowed like 7 of 7 and a touchdown. So definitely attacked the, redshirt freshman to walk on. And then, Monteric Brown had 3 missed tackles. Bumper Pool had a couple, but just in general, I think, Jalen Catalon coming back, that'll be really big. He's just a really good leader for them. And then, you got to figure out, if he gets hurt, you have to have Simeon Blair and Miles Slusher more ready to go than I think they were on Saturday.
Let's shift it to the offensive side of the football, and I think the biggest thing that me and Phil will agree on, I'm sure you will too, the quarterback play between Arkansas and Tennessee is easily in Arkansas's favor with the way Guarantano's been playing, and Feleipe Franks really been playing in his own. And the question got posed this morning on the Morning Rush. I'm just curious what your thoughts were, because I think going into this season, we all thought Feleipe Franks was a one-and-done guy and move on, go to the NFL. Do you think it's that simple, or do you think there's a scenario where Feleipe Franks might return to Arkansas next year, depend on NFL draft evaluations?
I read, a tweet this morning that's saying, a lot of people are looking at him and watching him, and he's playing, as good as he was during the Peach Bowl season in 2018 for Florida. And that's about what, Hog fans expected from him, and that's what they hoped from him after that huge injury last year. So he's doing the job he was asked to do when they brought him here. In terms of whether he stays or goes, I think he's made it very clear that if he has a chance to get drafted, I don't think he has like a round that he's particularly trying to go into. I just think he wants to get drafted and probably move on with his life and go to the pros. Like I don't look at him and see an NFL starter, but I definitely see someone that could compete with some of the backups that are out there in the NFL.
And we also love to have you on here when we got recruiting questions for you and everything like that. Is there any recruiting tidbits you can share with us? I've seen where Trey Emery was offered by the Razorbacks, and then another offer coming across just a little bit ago. DJ Wezelak. I hope I'm saying that last name right. What about some recruiting news you have for us?
Yeah, so they're still offering several 2022 guys. They're up to over like 230 for the 2022 class, and they're just watching as much tape as they can since they can't go out on the road. But Sam Pittman was talking about recruiting yesterday during our press conference, and he said, it's just a waiting game right now because a lot of kids don't want to commit to sign without seeing where they're going to end up. And it's just hard for a lot of kids and their parents to take a weekend and go, maybe across the country or 500 miles or wherever it may be to Fayetteville just to see campus and not even get to interact with the staff. So a lot of kids might wait till January to make a decision, when the NCAA decides, okay, we can or we can't have official visits still. But the main need for the class is that defensive line. And they're probably going to go with, 2 more additions there and then save a spot or 2 for the transfer portal and see who's out there, maybe at linebacker or tight end. But I think they're just focusing on that defensive line. And there's a lot of kids. They offered an East Texas defensive end the other day from Tyler Lee, which is actually where Jeff Traylor, the former running backs coach, his brother, was the head coach at Tyler Lee. So I'm sure they saw UTSA pull that offer a couple of weeks ago for him. And so they said, hey, that's a nice-looking defensive end. But I have notes on a lot of these defensive line prospects on the big board on HawgBeat's. You can go check those out. But right now, mostly these guys are just staying in contact with the staff, watching games, and trying to wrap up their senior seasons. Or a lot of these guys are JUCO guys, so they're trying to finish strong with grades since they're not playing.
Man, and Nikki, this kind of touches on, I think, what one of the things Pittman mentioned yesterday at his press conference. And it just seems like recruiting is one big holding pattern right now, which you can understand why. Everybody's waiting to find out when you can have official visits again. You're not going to get that decision really anytime soon. It might be sort of like a shotgun decision. So it's been a holding pattern in recruiting ever since the pandemic started, and I don't really know if I see that stopping anytime soon.
Yeah, so like there's a junior college kid, Isaiah Eiton. He's at Hutchinson. So he might have been recruited actually to Hutchinson by Ryan Rhodes from Northern Colorado before Coach Rhodes came to Arkansas, but I'm not sure how close of a relationship they actually have. But he's a big Arkansas target on the defensive line, and he's actually going to be a mid-year graduate, so he does actually have to start getting down to making a decision, but he's also looking at Ole Miss and Missouri, so it's looking like an SEC battle there.
And then everybody gets their eligibility still and everything. I mean, there's the whole roster stuff happening. Man, the reverberations from this will be felt for the next few years, no doubt. And, Nikki, we always appreciate you joining us. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks, guys.
Nikki Chavanelle, HawgBeat.com, part of the Rivals Network. They cover everything Arkansas athletics. And if you're looking for a new or used RV, don't forget about Wheels RV. They're right there off Exit 72, 5 miles west in Springdale, under the Tawnytown Water Tower. Been in business over 20 years, but new owners Lee and Chris have dedicated Wheels RV to customer service. And they dedicate themselves to stocking all the new travel trailers. Great top brands, Grand Design, Forest River Vibe, KZ, and have the Paradigm fifth wheel, hottest new fifth wheel in the industry from Alliance RV. Ask Wheels about a lifetime warranty. They're the only dealer in Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley that can do it. Get your top dollars for trades. That's Wheels RV, 5 miles west off the highway, exit 72 in Springdale, and at wheelsrv.net.